Who in their right mind is offering this woman a job? A romantic role nonetheless, but as the old adage goes, bad news travels fast. Or is it good news? I'm not really sure. Either way, some way, somehow, this woman has wiggled her way onto another set. I don't think this movie is in production quite yet, but she's wiggled her way onto another set of a movie called The Survival List. And somehow it's a romantic comedy. I don't know how. What I find hilarious is the fact that this movie is gonna be about her finding out somebody is a fraud, while she's producing this show, and she ends up having to take over to save them. And the parallels with her being a fraud of an actor and a fraud of a non-reader who didn't read the book, that she was supposed to be acting about on It Ends With Us, and Justin having to turn on God mode to save his movie.
In Hollywood, reputation is everything. One scandal can end a career overnight. So when an actress becomes toxic to an entire industry, when major publications expose her manipulative behavior, when fellow actors refuse to work alongside her, how does she simply waltz onto another film set? Blake Lively has somehow secured a starring role in a new romantic comedy called The Survival List. But here's the twisted irony. This is a woman who nearly destroyed her last co-star's career, who manipulated an entire promotional campaign, and who turned what should have been a serious domestic violence story into her personal brand showcase. So, the question burning through Hollywood right now is this: who in their right mind is willing to risk their reputation by working with Blake Lively? And more importantly, what does this say about an industry that claims to value accountability? Stick around because we're diving deep into this controversy, and what we uncover might shock you. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's cut straight to the chase. Blake Lively has been cast as the lead in The Survival List, an action romantic comedy produced by Lionsgate, the same studio that somehow still believes she's bankable after the It Ends With Us debacle. This is the same studio that worked with her on A Simple Favor and its upcoming sequel, suggesting they either haven't learned their lesson or they're hoping the controversy will blow over. The plot follows a reality TV producer named Annie, who discovers that a famous survival expert is actually a fraud who knows nothing about staying alive. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife, because if anyone knows about being exposed as a fraud, it's Blake Lively herself. Here's a woman who allegedly couldn't be bothered to read the book her last movie was based on, now playing someone who exposes frauds in the wilderness. But here's where it gets interesting.
I don't know how, but somebody's child, somebody's son, is about to agree to play alongside this woman as their romantic, scene partner. And I'm beside myself as to who will have the honor of playing this role. Either it's gonna be her husband, Hugh Jackman, Brennan Sklenar, or her sister's husband, Troy Bolton's father. This person says, I thought The Survival List was the IMDb of actors she's been in movies with. Oh my God. Get it together. Get it together, guys. Good luck to the director dealing with her drama. That's a great place to piggyback off. Speaking of the boycott, I want to reiterate, the last time Blake Lively had a movie come out, I went through an entire process of teaching everybody how to boycott. And for review, we're going to take a look at that now. This is a message for anybody who missed class. I know when it comes to group projects, y'all tend to fuck it up. These are some things we talked about. The project is to not do this. All you have to do to pass the class is to not do this. We love Anna Kendrick. We stand Anna Kendrick. I'm sure she knows that. We love Massimo for everything he's done for us. We do. But this, we're not doing this. It's such a simple class. If there's any confusion, leave it in the discussion board, the comments. If you understand, give me a thumbs up. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? We're not watching this. Don't fuck it up for the rest of us. I know you weren't in class. That's why I took notes and I'm relaying the notes. But don't fuck it up for the rest of us. Please. Thank you.
The male lead, this Chopper Lane character, hasn't been cast yet. Industry insiders are whispering that it's proving nearly impossible to find an actor willing to sign on. Why? Because working with Blake Lively has become career suicide in Hollywood. Think about it strategically. After what happened with Justin Baldoni during It Ends With Us, where Lively allegedly tried to take control of the entire production, launched a smear campaign against her director and co-star, and turned a story about domestic violence into a flower-themed promotional circus. What established actor would willingly put themselves in that position? The casting announcement reveals some telling details. Mark Platt, known for his work on major musicals like Wicked and La La Land, is reportedly in talks to produce alongside Lively. This is a man with serious Hollywood credentials suddenly attaching himself to what many are calling a career-damaging project. The question becomes, what kind of pressure or incentives are being used to bring legitimate talent into this toxic orbit? Scott O'Brien will oversee the project for Lionsgate, which means the studio is doubling down on their Blake Lively investment despite mounting evidence that she's become a liability. This raises serious questions about Lionsgate's decision-making process and whether they're prioritizing past relationships over sound business judgment. Could this be why the lead role remains vacant? Are agents actively steering their clients away from this project? Multiple sources suggest that several actors have already passed on the opportunity, with their representatives citing scheduling conflicts. Hollywood code for absolutely not. The timing is also suspicious. This announcement comes just as the It Ends With Us controversy was reaching its peak, with more details emerging about Lively's behind-the-scenes behavior. Was this casting announcement a desperate attempt to prove she's still viable? A strategic PR move to shift the narrative away from the mounting allegations of professional misconduct? Industry analysts are noting a disturbing pattern. When controversial figures face public backlash, the immediate response is often to announce new projects, creating an illusion of continued success and industry support. But the reality behind these announcements tells a different story. Consider the strategic implications. By securing this role, Lively and her team are essentially betting that they can outlast the controversy. It's a high-risk strategy that sends a clear message. We're not backing down, and we're not going away. But this approach only works if the industry enables it. The fact that this project is being described as having a spec script suggests it wasn't developed specifically for Blake Lively, meaning someone had to actively pursue her for the role despite the current controversies. This raises questions about who's really driving this casting decision and what their motivations might be. What's particularly calculated about this move is the genre choice. A romantic comedy allows Blake Lively to retreat into her comfort zone of light, superficial entertainment after the serious subject matter of domestic violence proved too challenging for her to handle responsibly. It's a strategic return to material that won't require her to demonstrate depth, empathy, or genuine understanding of complex social issues. The fact that major actors are reportedly avoiding this project, that casting the male lead has become problematic, and that the film will likely bypass theaters for streaming platforms, all of this suggests that Hollywood's power brokers see Blake Lively as damaged goods, even if they won't say so publicly. But to understand just how calculated this move might be, we need to look at the pattern of behavior that brought us here. To fully grasp the magnitude of this situation, let's rewind to where it all began. It Ends With Us was supposed to be Blake Lively's triumphant return to serious cinema, a chance to tackle meaningful subject matter about domestic violence and prove her acting range beyond the superficial characters she'd become known for. Instead, it became a masterclass in how not to handle sensitive material. Reports emerged that Lively clashed repeatedly with director Justin Baldoni, allegedly attempting to rewrite scenes, control the final cut, and override creative decisions. But that was just the beginning of what would become a systematic campaign to undermine the film's original vision. The promotional campaign became a disaster of epic proportions. While the film dealt with domestic abuse, Lively turned press events into fashion shows, promoted her hair care line during interviews about violence against women, and seemed completely disconnected from the serious themes of the story. Social media exploded with criticism from domestic violence survivors who felt betrayed by her tone-deaf approach. Then came the allegations that truly shook Hollywood. Reports suggested that Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds had orchestrated a sophisticated campaign to undermine Baldoni, potentially using their industry connections and PR machinery to shift blame and control the narrative. This wasn't just unprofessional behavior. It was alleged systematic manipulation of the entire production process. The fallout was swift and brutal. Public opinion turned decisively against Lively, with many calling for accountability and questioning whether she had manipulated the situation from the start. Major entertainment outlets began investigating her past behavior patterns, uncovering a troubling history of similar incidents involving control issues and professional misconduct, which brings us to the legal and professional implications that could determine not just Blake Lively's future, but how Hollywood handles accountability moving forward. From a legal standpoint, the It Ends With Us situation opened several concerning avenues. When an actor allegedly attempts to usurp directorial control, manipulates promotional campaigns, and potentially engages in systematic harassment of coworkers that crosses into serious professional misconduct territory, that could have lasting legal consequences. In simple terms, Hollywood contracts contain specific clauses about professional conduct, creative control boundaries, and publicity obligations. If Lively violated these agreements, as multiple reports suggest, she could face significant legal consequences, including breach of contract claims, potential industry blacklisting, and civil liability for damages caused by her alleged misconduct. The entertainment industry operates on trust and professional relationships. When someone allegedly violates that trust as systematically as reports suggest Blake Lively did, it creates ripple effects that extend far beyond a single film production. Other directors become hesitant to work with her. Studios question her reliability, and insurance companies may demand higher premiums to cover potential disruptions. But here's where it gets strategically interesting. By immediately securing another role, Lively and her team are essentially betting that they can outlast the controversy. It's a high-risk strategy that sends a clear message. We're not backing down, and we're not going away. However, this approach only works if the industry continues to enable this behavior. The industry response tells a different story than the public announcements suggest. Behind closed doors, major talent agencies are reportedly advising their clients to avoid Blake Lively projects. Casting directors are finding it increasingly difficult to attach established names to her films, and insurance companies are treating her as a higher risk, potentially driving up production costs. This case could set important precedents about accountability in Hollywood. If someone can allegedly manipulate productions, undermine coworkers, and face no real consequences beyond some bad press, what message does that send to other actors who might consider similar behavior? It essentially creates a roadmap for how powerful, well-connected figures can abuse their position without facing meaningful repercussions. The legal implications extend beyond just Blake Lively. If the allegations prove true, they could expose systemic problems in how Hollywood productions are managed, how conflicts are resolved, and how power dynamics are allowed to operate unchecked on film sets. The stakes here go far beyond one actress's career. This is about whether Hollywood's supposed commitment to change and accountability is real or just performative. The Blake Lively situation exposes fundamental problems in how Hollywood handles accountability, especially when it involves powerful, well-connected figures. Her ability to simply move on to another major studio project despite the serious allegations raises uncomfortable questions about the industry's commitment to real change and whether celebrity privilege still trumps professional standards. Consider the broader pattern. When lesser-known actors face similar allegations of unprofessional conduct, their careers often end immediately. They're quietly blacklisted, their agents drop them, and they disappear from the industry entirely. But when you have the right connections, the right representation, and the right last name, apparently different rules apply. The fact that Lionsgate, a major studio, is moving forward with this project despite the controversy sends a clear signal to the industry. It suggests that box office potential and star power still trump ethical concerns and professional conduct standards. This creates a two-tiered system of justice where accountability depends more on your industry connections than your actual behavior. If this strategy succeeds, if the survival list gets made and performs well, it could embolden other problematic figures in Hollywood. It essentially creates a roadmap for how to weather serious misconduct allegations, wait it out, secure new projects quickly, and bet that audiences will eventually forget or that your industry connections will protect you from real consequences. But here's where audience power becomes crucial. The real test isn't whether studios will cast controversial figures, it's whether audiences will support those projects. Early indicators suggest significant resistance, with social media campaigns already organizing boycotts of Blake Lively's future work and demanding accountability for her alleged actions. The situation becomes even more complex when you factor in Ryan Reynolds' involvement. Reports suggest he may have played a significant role in the It Ends With Us controversy, and now rumors are swirling about conflicts with other major stars like Robert Downey Jr. on Marvel sets. This creates a pattern of behavior that extends beyond just Blake Lively. When couples use their combined industry influence to potentially manipulate situations and control narratives, it represents a form of systemic abuse of power that Hollywood has historically enabled. The Reynolds-Lively partnership has become known for their coordinated PR strategies, their ability to shape media narratives, and their willingness to use their combined influence to protect their interests. Industry insiders are beginning to question whether this power couple has been operating with impunity for too long, using their charm and media savvy to mask more problematic behavior patterns. The alleged conflicts with Robert Downey Jr. suggest that even A-list stars are no longer willing to tolerate their behavior, which could signal a significant shift in industry dynamics. The question becomes, is this a moment of reckoning, or business as usual? Will the industry finally hold powerful figures accountable, or will money and connections continue to provide immunity from consequences? The answer may determine not just Blake Lively's future, but the credibility of Hollywood's entire accountability movement. Let's talk strategy, because this is where audience power becomes absolutely crucial. The entertainment industry operates on one fundamental principle: profit. If problematic figures can still generate revenue, studios will continue hiring them, regardless of ethical concerns or professional misconduct allegations. Here's what audiences need to understand: hate watching is still watching. When you stream a Blake Lively movie to mock her performance or confirm your negative opinion, the algorithm doesn't register your motivation. It only registers engagement. That engagement translates directly into money for the studios and validation for her continued casting. The most effective approach is complete disengagement. Don't stream the survival list when it inevitably hits platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Tubi. And yes, all industry indicators suggest this. We'll bypass theatrical release entirely. Don't watch trailers to leave negative comments. Don't engage with promotional content even to criticize it. Streaming platforms and social media algorithms are sophisticated but ultimately simple. They measure engagement, not sentiment. High engagement numbers, regardless of whether the comments are positive or negative, signal to studios that the content generates interest and drives viewership. This creates a perverse incentive where controversy can actually boost a project's perceived value. What you can do is utilize platform feedback systems effectively. Click "Not interested," use thumbs down options, and select "Don't show me this" when promotional content appears. These signals do register with platforms and can impact future recommendation algorithms, potentially limiting the reach of problematic content. This strategy has proven effective in recent Hollywood controversies. When audiences genuinely disengage, rather than hate watch, studios notice declining metrics and adjust their casting decisions accordingly. The power is there. It just requires disciplined implementation across a large enough audience to create measurable impact. Remember, this isn't just about Blake Lively. How the industry responds to audience reaction in this case will influence future decisions about casting controversial figures. Your engagement choices are essentially votes for the kind of Hollywood accountability you want to see moving forward. Based on current industry patterns and audience sentiment, several predictions emerge about how this situation will unfold. First, the survival list will almost certainly struggle to secure a major theatrical release. The combination of casting difficulties, negative publicity, and potential boycotts makes it a risky investment for theater chains already struggling with post-pandemic attendance issues. The streaming platform route becomes inevitable, but even that presents challenges. Netflix, Amazon, and other major platforms are increasingly sensitive to subscriber backlash, especially around controversial content. They may offer limited promotional support, essentially burying the film in their vast libraries where it can disappear without generating significant attention. For Blake Lively's career, this project represents a crucial inflection point. If the survival list fails to find an audience or generates significant negative attention, it could signal the end of her viability as a leading actress in major studio productions. Hollywood has a long memory for box office failures, especially when they're associated with off-screen controversies. Hollywood has a predictable pattern when dealing with controversial figures: initial support from established connections, followed by gradual distancing as financial risks become clear. We're likely seeing the beginning of this process with Blake Lively, as industry professionals quietly distance themselves from her projects while maintaining public politeness. The Ryan Reynolds factor adds another layer of complexity to these predictions. If reports about his on-set conflicts with other major stars prove accurate, it could create a broader industry backlash against both partners. Marvel, in particular, cannot afford significant disruption to their carefully orchestrated cinematic universe, and Disney has shown willingness to cut ties with problematic figures when necessary. This case may establish new precedents for how quickly and decisively the industry responds to professional misconduct allegations. Traditional Hollywood protection mechanisms, powerful agents, studio relationships, industry connections may prove less effective in the current media landscape where information spreads rapidly and audience sentiment can shift overnight. The most significant factor may be the growing sophistication of audience advocacy. Social media has created unprecedented transparency around industry practices, making it harder for studios to ignore public sentiment or manipulate narratives the way they could in previous decades. The Blake Lively situation represents more than just another Hollywood controversy. It's a test case for whether the entertainment industry's promises of accountability and change are genuine or merely performative. We're witnessing a pivotal moment where audience power can directly influence industry practices in ways that weren't possible just a few years ago. The question isn't whether Blake Lively deserves a second chance. It's whether Hollywood will finally prioritize ethical conduct over profit margins and celebrity connections. If this case moves forward without consequences, it sends a clear message that manipulation, professional misconduct, and abuse of power remain acceptable as long as you have the right connections. But if audiences refuse to support this behavior with their viewership and dollars, it could mark the beginning of real accountability in Hollywood. The entertainment industry is ultimately a business, and businesses respond to financial pressure more than moral arguments. What do you think? Is this Blake Lively's calculated comeback attempt, or evidence that Hollywood still protects its own, regardless of their actions? Are you planning to boycott the survival list, or do you believe everyone deserves a second chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This is a conversation the entire industry is watching, and if you found this analysis valuable, make sure to like this video. Subscribe for more Hollywood accountability coverage, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into industry controversies. The power to shape Hollywood's future is in your hands. Use it wisely.